there are few properties of dietary fiber. So they vary due to different linkages. One is the water holding capacity, viscosity, molecule binding capacity, and microbial degradation. So based on these different facts, we can discuss on the properties of dietary fibers. So let's just go through them. Water holding capacity. If we think about this, it's related to its solubility. There are two types of fibers: cellulose, lignin. They have low water holding capacity. Pectins, gums, they have high water holding capacity. Contribute to the fecal bulk, reduce constipation. So if the water holding capacity is increased, they reduce constipation. So these cellulose lignin, we talk, they are insoluble fibers, which means they don't uh, they cannot be they can't be solved in water, and also that they can't be digested by gut bacteria. But pectins and gums, on the other hand, they are turned into a gel-like solution in the large intestine by bacteria, and they can be partially degraded by bacteria. So they have high water holding capacity. Cellulose and lignin, they have low water holding capacity. So the importance of this water holding capacity is that they contribute to the fecal bulk and reduce constipation. Viscosity. Some polysaccharides are capable of forming highly viscous solutions. Holds osmotic particles, increases osmotic pressure in the intestinal content. So how is this viscous solutions are formed in the intestines? Is that these fibers, they hold osmotic particles. So you know that osmotic particles, what they do is when water is pulled inwards into the intestines or the cells wherever there is a high concentration of osmotic particles. So increase osmotic pressure in the intestinal content. So when water is getting pulled inward to this intestine, and it increases the osmotic pressure in the intestinal content, that means if water gets pulled in, so thereby they make a highly viscous solution. And then the other third factor is the capacity to bind organic and other molecules. So carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, bile acids, phospholipids, enzymes, drugs, and minerals. So there's a capacity to bind organic and other molecules. So these cellulose, lignin, pectin, those stuff, they can bind organic. They can bind to other organic molecules. That those organic molecules are carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, bile acids, phospholipids, enzymes, drugs, and minerals. So whenever even we take a medicinal drug, these fibers, they help to digest them by reducing constipation, right? So because they can bind to these molecules, that's the importance of them, and help them to facilitate their traversal or traveling to the gut. Soluble DF. So soluble dietary fibers dissolve in water. Fiber dissolves in water at the stomach and intestines and is degraded by bacteria in the intestine. It absorbs water and mixes the food into gel-like material. So it absorbs the water and mixes the food into a gel-like material, and it acts as a sponge. So what they do is they absorb, whenever they absorb the water, this lignin, pectin, they are turned into gel-like material. So thereby they can act as a sponge. They can be also degraded by the bacteria in the intestine. So as they are change their shape into a gel after absorbing water, we call them that they dissolve in the water. So they call them soluble dietary fibers. So effect on CHO. How do they affect on carbonic organic substances? The SDF slows the emptying of the stomach and the movement of the food mass to the intestines, which in turn slows the rate of CHO digestion and absorption, carbohydrate digestion and absorption. So we know that these not CHO means actually all the lipids and proteins and carbohydrates. Those stuff are made of basically lipids, carbohydrates, proteins. So CHO. So then these carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, they just what soluble fibers do is that soluble fibers, what they do is they turns turns the rate of CHO digestion absorption down. So turning rate of the um, digestion and absorption of CHO is uh, slowed down. So because of this reason, um, this slows the emptying of the stomach and the uh, movement of food mass to intestines. So thereby, CHO is trapped inside the gel-like sponge, decrease access of enzyme to the CHO substrate, reduce the activity of amylase and membrane-bound enzymes in the small intestine, reduce the activity of amylase and membrane-bound enzymes in the small intestine. Reducing constipation, soluble fiber increases stool volume and water content, so thereby reduce constipation. Soluble fiber. Effect on lipid digestion. Fiber binds with phospholipids, reduce the micelle formation, reduce digestion and absorption of lipids. Fiber binds with phospholipids. So, how do they affect on the lipid digestion? What this they do is these fibers they bind with the phospholipids and then reduce the micelle formation. So micelle formation is reduced by this binding of lipids, reduce the micelle formation and then they reduce the digestion and absorption of lipids. Then they reduce the digestion and absorption of lipids is reduced. So that's how they help on that's the effect on lipid digestion. Effect on cholesterol. The liver converts cholesterol into bile acids and then the body excretes those acids. So what does cholesterol do? If you take cholesterol as food, this liver, what it does is they convert this cholesterol into bile acids, right? So then the body excretes those acids. So bile acids are the things that is the end product of cholesterol. So the body secretes them. So what these water soluble fibers do is um, water-soluble fibers, they bind with the bile acids and increase excretion of cholesterol, decrease reabsorption of bile from intestine. More cholesterol in the body is utilized to synthesize bile. Cholesterol level in blood decreases. So, so when the body excretes these bile acids, water-soluble fibers bind with these bile acid and what they do is increase the excretion of cholesterol, decrease reabsorption of bile from intestine, increase excretion of cholesterol, decrease reabsorption of bile from intestines. More cholesterol in the body is utilized to synthesize bile. Cholesterol level in the blood is decreases. More cholesterol in the body. More cholesterol in the body is utilized to synthesize bile. Cholesterol level in blood decreases. So more cholesterol is in the body is utilized to synthesize bile as cholesterol is oh yeah, okay, I get what's the point. Now you know that cholesterol in blood accumulation is not a healthy thing. So what we have to do is reduce this cholesterol amount in our body. So for that, when we take a lot of fibers, if there are a lot of fibers, water soluble fibers in our diet, what they do is they increase the excretion of these bile acids and reduce the reabsorption of bile from intestine. So when you reduce the reabsorption of bile from intestine, to produce bile, more cholesterol in your blood has to be utilized to make new bile, to synthesize new bile. So then thereby cholesterol level in the blood is decreased. So if we go through the steps again, what liver does is it utilizes cholesterol and build up bile acids, and then body excretes these bile acids. But okay, body excretes these bile acids. Uh, let's take a note so that we understand it better. Yeah, first one, cholesterol produced into bile, they are excreted. So right, excreted into the intestines, right? So then what these soluble dietary fibers do is reduce reabsorption, increase excretion of bile in reabsorption, reduction, increase excretion of bile from intestine, from in or into intestine, then thereby more cholesterol in blood utilized for bile synthesis. So thereby the cholesterol level in blood reduce. So that's the process of it. Let's go to the next slide. So some types of fiber appear to have a greater effect than others. The fibers found in oats is more effective in lowering blood cholesterol levels than the fiber found in wheat. Peptide found in apples, oranges, and plums has a similar effect in and can lower the amount of cholesterol in blood. So the important facts here are the types of food that affects this, and then they are fiber in oats and pectin in apples and oranges and plums. So it's important to eat these oranges, apples and plums because they can lower the amount of cholesterol in blood. Hypercholesteremic action by reduce the lipid and cholesterol absorption. So hypercholesteremic action. So how do we call this hypercholesteremic action? Hyper means hyper means less. Reduce the lipid and cholesterol absorption, increase bile excretion, short chain fatty acids, inhibit HMG-CoO reductase. So HMG carboxyl reductase is an enzyme that is important in producing cholesterol. So that is inhibited by short chain fatty acids. So this is the hypercholesteremic action by soluble dietary soluble fibers. What they do is reduce the lipid and cholesterol absorption, increase bile excretion, short chain fatty acids, inhibit HMG cholesterol reductase. So that's about the hypercholesteremic action by reduce these are the other stuff. Reduce the lipid and cholesterol absorption, increase bile excretion, short chain fatty acids, inhibit HMG carboxyl reductase. Microbial degradation. Fiber escapes hydrolysis by human digestive enzymes. So if we talk about microbial degradation, There is another factor. This is another factor where we can categorize this stuff, these soluble dietary fibers. So microbial degradation. Fiber escapes hydrolysis by human digestive enzymes. That's the main characteristic of them. Degraded by the activity of microflora in gut, extent uh, extent of microbial activity depend on solubility. Percentage of degradation varies for different fiber. Lignin and cellulose are not degradable by human or bacterial enzymes. Pectin is almost 100% degradable. So the extent of microbial activity depends on solubility. So why fart and waste it when you can burp and taste it? Am I right? Yak. Fermentation of STF, especially of legumes, occurs by the action of colony bacteria on the food mass and producing gases and short chain fatty acids. So, these what happens in this STF? So, farting, we know what now. We'll just explain that. So, STF fermentation, like in legumes and legumes, especially in legumes, occurs by the action of colonic bacteria on the food. So fermentation is mainly done by colonic bacteria in the food. You know that, right? Uh, yeah. So um, producing gases on the food, producing gases, um, and this colonic bacteria in the food, they act on this food by producing gases, and that is flat. That is called flatulence. This producing gases and acting on food and digestion of food is called flatulence. And then using gases, and also it produces short chain fatty acids. So this short chain fatty acids actually help in as you saw here, actually help in inhibiting this cholesterol synthesis um, enzyme. So that is the where this fatty acid chains comes from. So whenever colonic bacteria acts on this food, they produce gases and produce short chain fatty acids. Is this short chain and this very acidic proportionate butyric that have significant health properties, volatile short chain fatty acids. So it is these short chain fatty acids, acidic propanoic butyric. So we know that short chain has an acidic propanoic butyric. So acidic means one carbon, and then propanoic means three carbons, and butyric means four carbon. They have significant health properties, right? We discussed them. Significant health in another video. We'll discuss them. Significant health properties, and then volatile chain fatty acids. So these short chain fatty acids are also volatile. So yeah, now we are going to discuss about the general functions of these soluble fibers. So general functions of these soluble fibers is that 1 gram of fermented carbohydrates gives 12 kilogram of energy, contribute to the energy balance of host 4 kilocalories. So 1 gram of fermented carbohydrate gives 12 kilojoules of energy. So even though these are not digested by enzymes, still being digested, partially digested by or fermented by these bacteria, they can produce energy. So these fermented carbohydrates, they can give uh, energy. So 1 gram of them gives 12 kilogram. So approximately 4 kilojoules. So approximately 4 kilocalories is given by 1 gram of these fermented carbohydrates via giving 12 kilojoules. So thereby they contribute to the energy balance of the host. Also acidify colonic environment. So they also help to acidify the colonic environment, inhibits the pathogenic bacterial growth. Some toxic substances, litholic acid, deoxyric acid, have decreased solubility, low pH, decrease in toxicity. Some toxic substances have decreased solubility in low pH, decrease in toxicity, have decreased solubility in low pH, decrease in toxicity, draw water to stools by osmosis. Okay, the second, okay. So now the second important function of these dietary fibers is that they acidify colonic environment. So colonic environment is the environment in your gut, right? It's like a colonic environment means a colon, right? Colon environment. They acidify it. Acidify means is they lower the pH value of it. So whenever the pH value is lower, it helps to destroy bacteria. Now we have friendly bacteria, not them, but destroy or inhibit pathogenic bacteria. So these low acidic levels, low pH levels or acidic environment inhibit pathogenic bacteria in your gut and also decrease the solubility of some acids. Some toxic substances have decreased solubility in low pH, decrease in toxicity. So they also have to decrease toxicity in gut. How? By reducing the solubility of these acids, by reducing the solubility of some toxins like these acids. So you know acids can't dissolve in acid, right? They need a basic environment to get dissolved. So these lithocholic acid and deoxycholic acid, it's easy to remember cholic because colon, right? Lithocholic acid, lithocholic acid and deoxycholic acid, lithocholic acid and deoxycholic acid, they don't dissolve in acidic environments. So thereby they have to lower the they call these fibers have to lower the toxicity, right? And also the third function is draw water to stools by osmotic action. They draw water to stools by osmotic action and thereby reduce constipation. Yeah. And also next we are going to talk about specific functions. So the specific functions are butyric acid, most important. So yeah, if we talk about the specific functions, we can say that these butyric acids. So this butyric acid is short chain fatty acid. So it is produced by the the by when these bacteria ferment the soluble fibers, and then they produce gases on this short chain acid fatty acids or this butyric acid. So as a byproduct, this becomes important. Very important reason is preferred metabolic fuel for colonocytes. After regulation of gene expression, cytotoxic to colorectal adenoma and carcinoma cells by inducing apoptosis in them, promoting DNA repair, maintain normal cell phenotype, decreasing risk of colonic cancer. Absorption of butyric acid is decreased in ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease. Butyric acid most important preferred metabolic fuel for colonocytes after regulation of gene expression, cytotoxic to colorectal adenoma and carcinoma cells by inducing apoptosis in them, promote DNA repair, maintain normal cell phenotype, decreasing risk of colonic cancer. Absorption of butyric acid is decreased in ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease. Affect regulation of gene expression. Cytotox affect regulation of gene expression. Affect regulation of gene expression. Cytotoxic to affect regulation of gene expression. Cytotoxic to colorectal adenoma and cytotoxic to colorectal adenoma and carcinoma cells by inducing apoptosis. Promote DNA repair. mm, Maintain normal cell phenotype. Decrease the risk of colonic cancer. Maintain normal cell phenotype. Decreasing risk of colonic cancer. Absorption of butyric acid is decreased in ulcerative colitis. Absorption of butyric acid decreased in ulcerative colitis. Yeah. So what happens is that preferred metabolic fuel for colonocytes affect regulation of gene expression, cytotoxic to colorectal adenoma and carcinoma cells by inducing apoptosis in them, promote DNA repair, maintain normal cell phenotype, decreasing risk of colonic cancer. Absorption of butyric acid is decreased in ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease. Acetate metabolized in the liver, mucous, muscle and peripheral tissues increase calcium magnesium absorption. Butyric acid, most important, preferred metabolic fuel for colonocytes, affect regulation of gene expression, cytotoxic to colorectal adenoma and carcinoma cells by inducing apoptosis in them, promote DNA repair, maintain normal cell phenotype, decrease the risk of colonic cancer. Absorption of butyric acid is decreased in ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease. Acetate metabolized in liver, muscle and peripheral tissues increase calcium magnesium absorption. Propionate metabolized in liver enhances colonic muscular contraction. Propionate metabolized in liver enhances colonic muscular contractions, relieves constipation, reduces plasma cholesterol concentration by inhibiting HMG carboxyl reductase. Fermentation forms gases H2CO2 CH4 absorbed into blood and excreted in breath. Insoluble dietary fiber doesn't dissolve in water and passes through digestive system largely unchanged. Fiber mesh. Fiber doesn't dissolve in water and passes through digestive system largely unchanged.